floor is yours, Ms. Francis Cedillo.
So, as you know, as a board member, these past 2 years have been really hard for outreach, especially like trying to go into the city. Like Vanessa was saying, like unfortunately we lost connection with like a lot of places that are really important to us because of the pandemic. Just not being able to connect with them physically, which is really important. In the case that, knock on wood, in the case that something happened and we have to go home again, how would you continue to uphold outreach in the Kasama?
Being in the presence of eBoard and a member of Kasamahan in the year we went online, I got to see ways that eBoard members and members would get creative in the ways they outreach with our community. One of these ways is like really working hard to like bring back the alumni we already know, but also being that one voice of outreach that maybe the one voice that alumni needed to come back. For example, our sophomore year, Christelle and I led a healthcare legacy alumni panel, and those alumni, they graduated like years ago. But with the help of people like Danielle, our advisor, she was able to introduce us to new alumni that we may not have known of. So just really getting to know who are the alumni that usually are more inclined to come back, but also using resources like Danielle are really important to figuring out what alumni relations are important. I think another thing is in terms of outreach with organizations and things like that, I will definitely be using my past experience from being community and political affairs co-director because a lot of what we do is outreach with these organizations. So working hard to keep those relations that we already have, especially with organizations like NC PASA, Kabataan Alliance, but also building off of the organizations that we've had when we were in person, like Little Manila. We were able to hold a Little Manila workshop back then with Nate Magsayo, who is an alumni. So yeah, just really working on the alumni relations and the organizations that we have relied on in the past, but being open-minded to what else is out there.
And then my second question is, with the 50th anniversary of PCN coming up next year, the truth is that you're going to play a huge role in that, with bringing alumni back. How are you going to incentivize them to come back into the space that, how are you going to incentivize them to come back to like a chapter that they already closed?
Yeah, I'm going to be honest, that is one of my biggest worries and fears when thinking about this position. Because our year was the one that went online, our first year. Our sense of alumni wasn't really established from that first year. So that was a big worry when I started looking into this position. But I trust that the people that we know within like our own individual connections, or my own individual connections as like just a member, will suffice as like the first step into that. I think an important thing is leading with storytelling, because the power of storytelling is so important. I feel like that really hones in on the emotional aspect, but also like that is the core as to why people always come back or why people stay here. So I think really honing in on storytelling and their memories that they've made with Kasamahan is super important to bringing them back, and utilizing other medias beyond Instagram, maybe starting up the Facebook again, who knows. But yeah, just really leading with storytelling and trying to get their voices to come back.
So currently, as for like context, the executive board is trying to redirect the term outreach in the position name. With that redirection and removing the focus, the concentration of professional outreach and making it more general outreach, what directions would you want to see outreach go in moving forward?
For me, because we're making the term outreach more general, I think that rather than that being more like say restrictive or more unknown, I like to think of it as more like open, and since it's so general, there's so much possibility that can happen from it. I do think that like we had that conversation of how it may intersect with other positions on board, like community and political affairs, or CD, or other positions like that. But instead of thinking that as a hindrance, I'd like to think of it as more of a strength into how we are able to help each other in that outreach. So I would love to keep that pre-professional aspect, because that is what comes after. That's what comes after our 4 years at USF. But I'd also like to focus on the relations and the connections that we make, because we still see alumni coming back whenever it's COTTIS season, or whenever families have things like that. So because outreach is so general, it opens up so many more possibilities to what outreach will look like under DA.
So with this position, the truth is that it's the main way of communicating with them is through email. And in my time of being DAO, I've received like many emails saying like, take me off the list, like why am I on the list? And they like block me and everything. How would you want to stay in contact with alumni? Like what's another modality that you want to utilize? You kind of already answered this, but I want to pick your brain. What other modality would you utilize to have alumni stay involved?
I think, well, to first address the whole like.
Throughout the years, we worked a lot with areas of growth and our strengths. What is one area of growth that you think you grew the most in this year?
I think one area of growth that I have and I'm still continuing to grow in is my ability, or at the beginning, lack thereof, of asking for help. Rarely do people ever know where I'm at in how I'm doing. They only see like what I produce, and that is like totally on me, because I tend to just go. So I think it's very important, especially in a role where I'm used to having a co. Like I haven't not had a co since I was first year Cassava. But I think especially not having a co, that's something that I really need to hone on, especially when like it's something as big as dealing with outreach, dealing with so many people outside of like USF. It may take a lot more energy than I think. So that is something I will continue to grow on as if and when my time on board continues. So yeah.
Tell me about a story with alumni that positively impacted you. Or maybe just like your favorite story. And like what you learned.
Story from alumni or
Story
experience with
an alumni.
Like experience with an alumni?
Yeah.
Ooh, okay. I think one of my most like formative experiences happened very recently at PCN. Like I feel like PCN, especially for like us first, second, and third years, it was such like an intense feeling that we've never experienced before. So it was like very prone to having such high emotions. I felt that especially like as a PCND, specifically like for some of our dances, because like it was like there was so much weight on PCN because it was like our redemption, our comeback, and we were able to put like the dance we've been working on for 2 years back on stage, and I felt like so much stress and so much high emotions during PCN, and to the point where I would just like let it all out. I remember it was show week. Yeah, it was show week when like I was feeling the most stressed, and it just hit in waves, especially with nursing riding on my shoulders. It just hit in waves, and it was in that moment where I realized the strength of community, because like there were these alumni that I haven't talked to, like we weren't necessarily in the same Kasamahan space at the same time, but Nate Magsayo, he was the first person in Kasamahan that I met in Denver before I was even here. That's what I was referring to in my speech, and he was one of the people who just like checked in on me during and was just like, oh hey, how are you? And I was like, not good. But just like that, how are you? Like allow me to release my emotions, release the weight on my shoulders. Because I think for a lot of us who hadn't experienced PCM, a lot of that weight was the weight of those who didn't get the PCM, or those who weren't able to perform in person, or those who got their years cut off early. So him reassuring me that like all the feelings that I felt during that PCN, whether they were good, they were bad, they were heavy, or they helped lighten the load off my shoulders, it was a natural part of PCN. And that was something I had to understand, like especially coming from a person who had gone through it, who had gone through it all the 4 years. It really hit different, especially in that high stress. And I hope to like encourage everyone to be that same person for other people, especially now that many of us have experienced that PCN.
Question: as future alumni, why should we trust you to not in like a attacking way, like why should we trust you to keep us involved?
That's a very good question. I think it really comes down to why I'm here to serve. I'm here for not only membership, but also for you all beyond your years of membership, like here physically in Alumni. I'm gonna do everything in my power to keep you all in here, because the impact you have made on Kasamahan, on all of us third years, all of us second years, even all the first years you may have just met this year, the impact you have made is so strong, and all of us, this is something all of us want to carry for the rest of our lives. And it's something that I hope you all want to carry for the rest of your lives. And the way I'm here to serve you is to amplify your voices rather than speak over you. So just see me as a bridge between you, the past, and the present right here, and the future that will come after. Because trust me, your stories will impact generations beyond.